Section 11 of Advice to Young Men and Boys. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Advice to Young Men and Boys by Benjamin Comegys. Thanksgiving Day, November 29, 1888. The President of the United States, in a proclamation which you have just heard, has set apart this 29th day of November for a day of thanksgiving and prayer for the great mercies which the Almighty has given to the people of our country and for a continuance of these mercies. His example has been followed by the governors of Pennsylvania and many, if not all, of the states, and we may therefore believe that all over the land, from Maine to Alaska and from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico, the people in large numbers are now gathered or gathering in their places of worship in obedience to this proper recommendation. The directors of this college, in full sympathy with the thoughts of our rulers, have closed your schools today, released you from the duty of study, gathered you in this chapel, and asked you to unite with the people generally in giving thanks to God for the past and imploring His mercies for the future. For you are a part of the people, and although not yet able from your minority to take an active part in the government, are yet being rapidly prepared for this great right of citizenship. It is the high privilege of an American boy to know that when he becomes a man, he will have just as clear a right as any other man to exercise all the functions of a free man in choosing the men who are to be entrusted with the responsibilities of government. What are some of the things that give us cause for thankfulness to Almighty God? Very briefly, such as these. 1. This is a Christian country. Although there is not and cannot be any part or branch of the church established by law, there is assured liberty for every citizen to worship God by himself or with others in congregations, as he or they may choose, in such forms of worship as may be preferred, with none to molest or make afraid. Here is absolute freedom of worship. And even if it be that the name of God is not in our Constitution, nevertheless no president or governor or public officer can be inducted or inaugurated in high office except by taking oath on the book of God and, as in his presence, that he will faithfully discharge the duties of his office. If there were nothing else, this public acknowledgment of the being of Almighty God and our accountability to Him gives us an unquestioned right to call ourselves a Christian people. 2. This is a free government. Free in the sense that the people choose their own rulers, whether of towns, cities, states, or the nation. There is no hereditary rule here, and cannot be. We not only choose our own rulers, but when we are dissatisfied with them for whatever cause, we dismiss them. And the minority accept the decision when it is ascertained, without doubt, without a question of its righteousness. They only want to know whether the majority have actually chosen this or that candidate, and they accept frankly, if not cheerfully. We have had a splendid illustration of this within this present month. The great party that has administered the government for 4 years past, on the verdict of the majority, are preparing to retire, and will retire on the 4th of March next, and give up the government to the other great party, its victorious rival. Nowhere else in the world can such a revolution be accomplished on so grand a scale, by so many people, with so little friction. This government, then, is better than any monarchy, no matter how carefully guarded by constitutional restrictions and safeguards. The best monarchical governments are in Europe, the best of all in England. But the governments of Europe have many and great concessions to make to the people before they can stand side by side with the United States in strong, healthy, considerate management of the people. It has been said that the best machinery is that which has the least friction, and as time passes, we may hope that our machinery of government will be so smooth that the people will hardly know that they are governed at all. In fact, they will be their own governors. This time is coming as sure as Christmas, though not so close at hand, and you boys can hasten it by your own upright, manly bearing when you come to be men. Never forget that this is a government of the majority, and you must see to it that the majority be true men. 3. We are separated by wide oceans from the rest of the world. The Atlantic separates us from Europe on the east, the Gulf of Mexico from South America on the south, and the great Pacific Ocean washes our western shores. We are a continent to ourselves, with the exception of Mexico, a sister republic on the south with whom we are not likely to quarrel again, and the Dominion of Canada on the north, which, if never to become a part of ourselves, will at least at some day, and probably not a very distant day, become independent of the mother country as we did, though not at the great cost at which we obtained our freedom. Our distance from Europe relieves us entirely from the consideration of subjects which occupy most of the time of their statesmen, and which very often thrill the rest of the world in the apprehension of a general war in Europe. We are under no necessity of annexing other territory. We are not afraid of what is called the balance of power. We have no army that is worthy of the name, because we don't need one, and we can make one if we should need it. And we have no navy to speak of, though I think we ought to have for the protection of our commerce, when our commerce shall be further encouraged. We have no entanglements with other nations. The great father of his country, in his farewell address, warned the people against this danger. 4. Our country is very large. You schoolboys can tell me, as well as I can tell you, what degrees of latitude and longitude we reach, and how many millions of square miles we count. Europeans say we brag too much about the great extent of our country, but I do not refer to it now for boasting, but as a matter of thankfulness to God for giving it to us. It means that our territory, reaching from the Arctic to the tropics, gives us every variety of climate and almost every variety of product that the earth produces. And I am sure that the time will come when, under a higher agricultural cultivation than we have yet reached, our soil will produce everything that grows anywhere else in the world. The corn harvest now being gathered in our country will reach 2,000 millions of bushels. The mind staggers under such ponderous figures and quantities. Our wheat fields are hardly less productive. Our potatoes and rice and oats and barley and grass, the products of our cattle and sheep, and in short, everything that our soil above ground yields, and the enormous yield of our coal mines, our oil wells, our natural gas, our metals, our railroads, spanning the entire continent and binding the people together with bands of steel, all these and many others, which time will not permit me even to mention, give some faint idea of what a splendid country it is that the Almighty God has given to the American people. And do we not well, therefore, when we come together on a day like this, to make our acknowledgments to Him? 5. The general education of the people is another reason for thankfulness to God. The system is not yet universal, but it will be at no distant day. You boys will live to see the day when every man, woman, and child born in the United States, except those who are too young or feeble-minded, will be able to read and write and cipher. It is sure to come. Then, under the blessing of God, when people learn to do their own reading and thinking, we shall not fear anarchists and atheists and the many other fools who, under one name or another, are now trying to make this people discontented with their lot. There is no need for such people here, and no place for them. They have made a mistake in coming to this free land, as some of them found to their cost on the gallows at Chicago. 6. We have no war in our country, no famine, and with the exception of poor Jacksonville, Florida, no pestilence. Famine we have never known, and with such an extent of country we have little need to dread such a scourge as that. No one need suffer for food in our country, and this is the only country in the world of which this can be said, for labor of some kind can always be found, and food is so cheap, plain kinds of food, that none but the utterly dissipated and worthless need starve. And in fact, none do starve, for if they are so wretchedly improvident, the guardians of the poor will save them from suffering not only, but actually provide them with a home that for real comfort is not known elsewhere in the world. Some of us have seen war in its most dreadful proportions, but even then the alleviations furnished by the Christian Commission greatly relieved some of its most horrid features, and we are not likely to see war again, for there will be hereafter nothing to quarrel and fight about. Our political differences will never again lead to the taking up of arms in deadly strife. Such are some of the occasions of thankfulness which led the President of the United States to ask the people, by public proclamation, to turn aside for one day from their business, their farms, their workshops, their counting houses, to close the schools and assemble in their places of worship and thank God, the giver of every good and perfect gift. But I don't think the President of the United States knew what special reasons the Girard College boys have to keep a Thanksgiving Day, and I shall try in what I have yet to say to point out some of them. 1. This foundation is under the control of the Board of City Trusts. When Mr. Girard left the bulk of his great estate for this noble purpose, he gave it to the mayor, aldermen, and citizens of Philadelphia as his trustees. The city of Philadelphia could act only through its legislative body, the Select and Common Councils, bodies elected by the people and consequently more or less under the influence of one or the other of the great political parties. Nearly 20 years ago, owing largely to Mr. William Welsh, who became the first president of the Board of City Trusts, the legislature of Pennsylvania took from the control of the councils all the charitable trusts of the city, and committed them to this board. If any political influences were ever unworthily exerted in the former board, it ceased when the judges of the city of Philadelphia and the judges of the Supreme Court named the first directors of the city trusts. These directors are all your friends. They give much thought, much labor, much anxiety to your well-being, desiring to do the best things that are possible to be done for your welfare, and to do them in the best way. Many of them have been successful in finding desirable situations for such of your number as were prepared to accept such places. I am glad to say that I have 3 college boys associated with me in my business. Mr. Stewart had 2, Mr. Michener has 2, General Wagner has 2, and Mr. Rawl has had 1, and probably other members of the board have also. So you see, our interest in you is not limited to the time which we spend here and in the office on South 12th Street, but we are ever on the lookout for things which we hope may be to your advantage. 2. This splendid estate which you enjoy. These beautiful buildings which were erected for your use. These grounds which are so well kept and which are so attractive to you and to the thousands of visitors that come here. These schoolrooms, which we determine shall lack nothing that is desirable to make them what they ought to be. The textbooks which you use in school, the best that can be found. The teachers, the most accomplished and skillful that can be procured. The prefects and governesses chosen from among many applicants, and because they are supposed to be the best, all your caretakers. All who have to do with you here are chosen, because they are supposed to be well qualified to discharge their duties most successfully. The arrangements for your lodging in the dormitories, the furniture and food of your tables, the well-equipped infirmary for the sick, are such as, in the judgment of the trustees, the great founder himself would approve if he could be consulted. Truly, this gives occasion for special thanksgiving on this Thanksgiving Day. 3. You all have a birthright. What that meant in the earliest times we do not fully know, but it meant at least to be the head or father of the family, a sort of domestic priesthood, the chief of the tribe, or the head of a great nation. In our own times, in Great Britain, the firstborn son has by right of birth the headship of the family, inheriting the principal part of the property, and he is the representative of the estate. They call it there the law of primogeniture, or the law of the firstborn. In our country there is no birthright in families, and we have no law to make the eldest born in any respect more favored than the other and younger children. But you Girard boys have a birthright, which means a great deal. The founder of this great school left the bulk of his large estate to the city of Philadelphia for the purpose of adopting and educating a certain class of boys, very particularly described, to which you belong. The provision he made for you was most liberal. Everything that his trustees consider necessary for your careful support and thorough education is to be provided. Nothing is to be wanting which money wisely expended can supply. This is your birthright. No earthly power can take it from you without your consent. No commercial distress, no financial panic, no change of political rulers, no combination of party politics can interfere with the purpose of the founder. Nothing but the loss of health or life, or your own misconduct, can deprive you of this great birthright. Do you boys fully appreciate this? Now, is it to be supposed that there is a boy here who is willing to sell this birthright, as Esau did? Is there a boy here who is corrupt in heart, so profane and foul in speech, so vicious in character, so wicked in behavior, as to be an unfit companion for his schoolmates, and who cannot be permitted to remain among them? Is there a boy here who, for the gratification of a vicious appetite, will sell that privilege of support and education so abundantly provided here? So guarded is this trust, so sacred almost, that no human being can take it away from you. Will you deliberately throw it away? The wretched Esau, in the old Jewish history, under the pressure of hunger and faintness, sold his birthright with all its invaluable privileges. Will you, with no such temptation as tried him, with no temptation but the perverseness of your own will and your love of self-indulgence, will you sell your birthright? Bitterly did Esau regret his folly. Earnestly did he try to recover what he had lost, but it was too late. He never did recover his lost birthright, though he sought it carefully and with tears. And he had no one to warn him beforehand, as I am warning you. Boys, if you pass through this college course not making the best use of your time, or if you allow yourselves to fall into such evil habits as will make it necessary to send you away from the college, and this after all the kind words that have been spoken to you and the faithful warnings that have been given you, you will lose that which can never be restored to you, which can never be made up to you in any other way elsewhere. You will prove yourselves more foolish, more wicked than Esau, for you will lose more than he did, and you will do it against kinder remonstrances than he had. 4. There is another feature of the management here which gives a special satisfaction. When a boy leaves the college to go to a place which has been chosen for him, or which he has found by his own exertions, he is looked after until he reaches the age of 21 by an officer especially appointed, and, as we believe, well adapted to that service. And many a boy who has found himself in unfavorable circumstances and under hard taskmasters, with people who have no sympathy with his youth and inexperience, many such have been visited and encouraged, helped, and so assisted towards true success. 5. But what is there to make each particular boy thankful today? Why, you are all in good health, and if you would know how much that means, go to the infirmary and see the sick boys there, who are not able to be in the chapel today, not able to be in the playgrounds, who are looking out the windows with wistful eyes, very much desiring to be with you and enjoying your plays, but cannot. God bless them. You are all comfortably clothed. Those of you who are less robust have warmer clothing, and all of you are shielded and guarded as well as the trustees know how to care for you, so that you may be trained to be strong men. You are all having a holiday. No school today, no shop work today, no paying marks today, no punishments of any kind today. Why? It is Thanksgiving Day, and everything that is disagreeable is put out of sight and ought to be put out of mind. You are all to have a good dinner, Even now, while we are here in the chapel, and while some of you are growing impatient at my speech, think of the good dinner that is now cooking for you. Think of the roast turkey, the cranberry sauce, the piping hot potatoes, the gravy, the dressing, the mince pies, the apples afterwards, and all the other good things which make your mouths water, and make my mouth water even to mention the names. Then after dinner you go to your homes, and you have a good time there. The last thing I mentioned which you ought to be thankful for is having a short speech. End of section 11. Read by John R. Moore, Albertville, Alabama, January 2023.